Okay, moving on to organizational development. So, organizational development is referring to a collection of change methods that try to improve organizational effectiveness and employee well-being. So, focusing on two factors on organizational effectiveness and also on employee well-being. So, OD methods value human and organizational growth, so they collaborate and participate. They focus more on, or they focus more on collaborative and participative process and spirits of inquiry. So or they also focus on how individual make sense of their work environment, and change or agents may take a lead in organizational developments, but there is a strong emphasis on collaborations among members or among employees. So seek interventions for change agents in the organizational developments, such as sensitivity trainings, survey feedback, process consultations, team building, intergroup developments, and appreciative inquiry. So sensitivity trainings, also known as laboratory trainings or groups or T groups or training groups. So, but all refer to the thorough unstructured group interactions where all participants discuss themselves and their interactive process, normally loosely directed by a professional behavioral scientist. So when we talk about sensitivity training, we talk about groups or training groups that refer to the thorough unstructured group interactions where participants discuss in the interactive process, loosely directed by scientists or by professional, that's mean more or less like a facilitator. Survey feedbacks has normally used questionnaire to identify discrepancies among members' perception, discussions follows, and remedy suggested. So the survey feedbacks normally have a questionnaire to find out the problems or inconsistency among members, among employees' perceptions, and discussions follow after that, and also remedy provided or suggested. So usually completed by manager and subordinates also. Process consultations is a meeting in which consultants are involved, where consultant assists the clients to understand the process event that the manager must deal with, and the coaches or his or and then coach his or her client through the problem that need improvement. So it's basically, when we talk about process consultations, involve consultants with the clients. So consultant helping the clients and coach the clients through the problem that need improvement. Team buildings normally use high interactions group activities. When we talk about team building, normally involve high interactions activities that increase trust and openness among members and improve coordinative effects and increase team performance. So team process is like any other teams involve highly interactions activities, involve like trust and openness among members. Normally when we go for team building, we have that kind of activities that involve trusting our members, trusting the members, the teams, and open in terms of discussions, ideas, problem, and so on. Intergroup development is regarding the groups, intergroup development between groups that seeks to change group attitudes, stereotypes, and perceptions about each other. And appreciative inquiry or participations, these kind of this kind of OD is kind of is actually ask participant to look forwards and project the future based on the positive component of organization. So this is regarding appreciative inquiry. So the participants need to look forwards, as a participant need to look forwards and project the future based on the positive components. So positive component related to appreciative inquiry about the participants regarding the positive components that been based in the organizations. So next we move to managing a paradox. So in other words, paradox mean inconsistency. So how we want to manage inconsistency in the organizations. So there is no such thing as separate discipline when we talk about change management, because all management is dealing with constant change and adaptations. So not all managements or whatever managements in the organizations needs to have learning, organizing, performing, and belonging in the organization, because these are parts of adapting to change. So learning is a paradox because it's require building on the past while rejecting it at the same time. So this is also considered as a learning, considered also as an inconsistency or paradox, because sometimes we this learning building on the past, that means the discovery on the past, but at the same time rejecting it. That means maybe there will be pro and cons in the learning process. So it is mentioned here, building on the past, that means something that is agreed upon, and then rejecting, that means something that is not agreed upon. So learning is kind of this kind of process. Organizing is considered as a paradox because it's called for setting directions and leading while requiring empowerment and flexibility. So as you can see here, the explanations in the textbooks is mentioned here first, building on the past and then reject at the same time. Organizing call for setting directions and leading while requiring empowerment and flexibility. So this that's why it's a paradox, because it's inconsistency exists between this one and the second one. So performing is also paradox because creating organization-wide goal to concentrate efforts and recognizing the diverse group of stakeholders inside and outside the organization. So they are doing two things at the same time. Belonging is also a paradox because establishing a sense of collective identity and acknowledging our desire to be recognized and accepted as a unique individual. So as you can see here, it's considered paradox because is having this element, having contrasting facts. For example, learning, building on the past, and then versus rejecting it at the same time. Organizing, setting direction and leading, at the same time requiring empowerment and flexibility. So this one is the opposite of this one. This one is the opposite or the opposite of this one. So that's why it says a paradox, inconsistency between the main points mentioned here. So managers can learn a few lessons from paradox theory. So paradox theories states that key paradox in management is that there is no final optimal status for the organization. So that's what is meant by paradox. No final optimal status for an organization. So how to stimulate a culture of innovations? So innovation is a more specialized kind of change. It is also a change, but it's considered specialized kind of change. It's a new idea applied for initiating or improving a product, process, and services. So it's a specialized change. It's a new idea applied to initiating and improving a products. Innovation also can range from small incremental improvements such as netbook computer to radical breakthrough. So that means innovation can happen maybe at the small thing or at the highest thing, such as a radical breakthrough, such as Nissan's electric lift car. So source of innovation can be varied. Structural variables are the most studied potential source of innovation. So in terms of comprehensive review of the structural innovations leads to these findings. For example, organic structures found to be positively influence innovation, because organic structures there's no formalizations, there's no rules and regulations in the organizations, and they are more decision making also are more decentralized. They are hierarchy in terms of organizations also flat, so they also be able to deal with the problems like directly without even referring to the HQ, for example. So these organic structures of the organizations actually have a positive relationship with the innovation. So organic structure encourage, in other words, organic structure encourage innovation in the organizations. So innovation also could be encouraged in the organization that provide more rewards. So innovation contingent reward positively influence integrations. Innovation also is nurtured when there are slack resources. So when the organization do not have enough resources, the innovation can be nurtured. That means people can come up with something creative, something innovations, something innovative, how to make use of the limited resources. So, inter-unit communication is high in the innovative organizations. So, in this kind of innovative organizations, normally they encourage inter-unit communication, where the communication can be done between unit to units, between department to department. So, normally in the organizations, the communication highly occurred within that one department. So quite a few we can see that in certain organizations the communication normally centered in their department, but in the innovative organizations normally communications happen like randomly. So it's not really just in one department, but encouraged to have inter-unit communication, mean encourage between one department to another department, between one level to another level, between managers and other managers and employees and so on. So these actually the sources of innovations. Context innovations, we can say that different culture also have different kind of innovations. So innovative organizations tend to have similar cultures. So cultures that encourage experimentations normally tend to be highly in terms of innovations, and the culture that rewards both success and failure. That means if the organization reward failure, actually can be a goods can encourage people to come up with something new, do not afraid of failure, so they are more creative. And if innovation the success also being rewarded, that means encourage the goods and also the bad thing that's sometimes something that's come up of the failure can contribute, can have the benefits. It's not just the success, but the failure also contribute to something. And the organization that celebrate mistakes actually is characteristics of innovative organizations, because sometimes in order to come up with a breakthrough discovery, you need to have a few mistakes. You need to develop from the mistake. Any discoveries, any success normally happen because of the mistakes that have been done, and after that they will find a success. So celebrating mistake is considered as one step into becoming innovative organizations. So managers in innovative organization also recognize that failure are a natural byproducts of venturing into the unknown. So that's what I said. Failure is actually is not like is something useless. Sometimes failure is a starting point where you need to learn further, where you need to find out, become more innovative in figuring out what's wrong with the product, for example, if it is failed. So it's something that is important. Failure is a natural byproduct before venturing into unknown, something that's maybe there will be the something new but unknown. So it is important to start with finding something. But if you find a success, it will be good. But if you find a failure can be a step to achieve something good, or to find a breakthrough in terms of something new. So that's why it says byproduct of venturing into unknown.